Welcome to the lecture on Chapter 4 and 5. We'll be looking at the cell and its components, and we'll also be looking at the plasma membrane and some of the transport mechanisms of the plasma membrane. So first off here, let's look at the cell itself. The animal cell, okay, because we're not really going to get into the plant cell much. The animal cell is surrounded by a plasma membrane, okay? So this right here would be your plasma membrane. Alright, that's the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane holds the contents of the cell together. It's semi-permeable, meaning it chooses what comes in and out. It's also flexible, and it can change shape. And we'll talk more about the components of the plasma membrane down the road. Now, inside the cell, we have here the nucleus. Now notice the nucleus has this large ball in the middle there, right, that this arrow is pointing to here, and that is the nucleolus. Okay, so this whole thing's the nucleus, and the middle is the nucleolus. The nucleolus is what creates ribosomes, which we'll talk about in a minute. The nucleus contains DNA, which you can see all these little squigglies in here. Okay, those are the DNA, and that's what houses our genetic information. Everything we are is contained in that DNA. You can also notice that the nucleus has two membranes with pores in it. So you can see these little holes there. Okay, that's called a nuclear envelope. So think of an envelope, how it has space in the middle. The nucleus has the same thing. It has a gap in the middle, and it has holes through it. Those holes, or those pores in the nuclear envelope, allow things to move in and out. So when we're trying to make a protein and we need to send RNA out, they go through those pores. Or if something's coming into the nucleus like a hormone, they're going to enter through those pores. Okay, so it allows movement across the membrane of the nucleus. Alright, I'm going to clear this writing that's on here. Next, let's look at the large organelles here. These are what we call rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, and I'm just going to write it as rough ER. Okay, rough ER is called rough because it has all these little ribosomes on it, okay, which I'm trying to dot there. It has ribosomes all over it. Okay, so that's why it's called rough endoplasmic reticulum. What rough ER does is it synthesizes proteins. The ribosomes on the endoplasmic reticulum make the proteins, and the endoplasmic reticulum refines the proteins and ships them to the Golgi apparatus, or Golgi complex. Okay, so it's a protein, think of it like a protein factory. It makes a protein, and then as it gets to the end of the work line, it's completed and it heads off to the Golgi. Alright, so that protein synthesis occurs there at the rough ER. Next we'll look at the Golgi complex, which is right there, or Golgi apparatus. Okay, so that's our Golgi complex. And the Golgi complex is like your shipping department, your FedEx department. It receives molecules in what we call these little transport vesicles. So I'll underline them in green here. See those little vesicles coming in? Those are transport vesicles. And what they do is they bring molecules like proteins, lipids, to the Golgi. The Golgi then packages them up, refines them, puts an address label on them, and sends them where they're supposed to go. And it'll send them out the other side, so it'll go through the Golgi and come out the other side in transport vesicles. Those transport vesicles will then go somewhere in the cell or go outside of the cell. Alright, so that's your UPS or your FedEx, your shipping department. Okay. We also have over here another type of endoplasmic reticulum, and it doesn't have ribosomes on it, so we call it smooth ER. Smooth ER. And smooth ER is mainly for lipid synthesis. It also detoxifies toxins in our body as well. Okay, so smooth ER detoxifies and synthesizes lipids. Okay, notice it doesn't have ribosomes, so that's why it's called smooth ER. Now, we already talked somewhat about ribosomes. We have some here floating in the cytoplasm. We have some here on the endoplasmic reticulum. Ribosomes synthesize proteins. They make proteins. The ones that are on the endoplasmic reticulum make proteins that exit the cell. The ones that are in the cytoplasm here make proteins that stay in the cell. Alright? So if ribosome makes proteins on the endoplasmic reticulum, they go out of the cell. If they make them in the cytoplasm, they stay in the cell. Now, we'll look at here, the next one we're going to look at organelle-wise is the mitochondria. Okay, mitochondria. And mitochondria, what the mitochondria does is it's our energy source for our cell. Okay, it's our energy factory. It produces ATP. Okay, ATP. It produces ATP. That's our energy, our main form of energy in our bodies. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It produces all that ATP so our body can perform functions. It does that by the oxidation of glucose, which we'll talk about. It oxidizes glucose, which we'll talk about that when we get to chapters 6 and 7 and look at cellular respiration. Okay, you can see another mitochondria over there. Last two we're going to look at here on this cell is this one first, which is the lysosome. Lysosome is like the intestines of the cell. They digest worn out organelles, food particles that come into the cell, molecules, proteins. What they do is they have enzymes and acids within their vesicle there, and they go and they engulf a molecule, and you can see a figure in your book that demonstrates this, but they engulf the molecule, they release the enzyme and the acids, it breaks down the molecule, they spit the molecule out, but they keep the enzymes and the acids within the lysosome to keep that from harming the cell. Okay, so the lysosome digests worn out molecules, worn out organelles, and a variety of food particles that enter the cell. And finally, what we're going to look at here are these right here are what we call centrioles. You also heard of centrosomes. Centrosomes is actually the overarching name for the organelle. Centrioles is what's inside of it. But what they do is they help with cell division. They have some other functions, but mainly you need to know is that they help with cell divisions. And we'll talk about that later on in the this course. Next, what we're going to look at is the plasma membrane. So here's a quick look at the plasma membrane. Notice we have all these molecules right. So these molecules, these ones with the blue heads and the tails, so I'll draw it up here. Okay, they're all over throughout the plasma membrane. These are called phospholipids. Phospholipids. They're a unique molecule that give the membrane its unique characteristics. The head of the phospholipid has the phosphate group up here. Okay, so there's the phosphate group up here. I'll color it blue. Okay, because it likes H2O. It is hydrophilic. It is water loving. It is water soluble. This section down here does not like H2O. Okay, it does not like H2O. It is hydrophobic. Okay, so you have hydrophobic down here and hydrophilic up here. Now that's what gives a unique characteristic to the plasma membrane, because all on the outside of the membrane here is water loving. All on the inside of the cell here is water loving because it's made up of water. But the middle of the plasma membrane here does not like water. Okay? It is hydrophobic. So that gives a unique characteristic to the membrane. It allows, the middle being hydrophobic allows hydrophobic molecules to move through, but anything that's hydrophilic, except for water, cannot move through the plasma membrane because of that fatty region in the middle. So that's what adds or aids really in the semi-permeability of the plasma membrane. We also have a variety of proteins in the plasma membrane as well. First one here is a integral protein. Now this one just happens to be a channel, but an integral protein is integrated throughout the membrane. So see how it goes from both sides? That's integral. Okay, it's integrated to both sides. We also have peripheral here. So that's a peripheral protein. It's on one side or the other. Now the ones on the inside here often anchor, okay, to the cytoskeleton of the cell. So I'll clear the ink here. A lot of times you'll have your cytoskeleton coming through here, and it'll actually anchor the plasma membrane to that cytoskeleton. And that's what allows the cell to hold its structure and support itself. Over here, right here, we have another integral protein. Right here in the middle, we have another peripheral protein, and in this case, it's on the outside of the cell. And a lot of times what you'll see is this coming off of it, and that's a carbohydrate glycocalyx coming off of it. And a lot of times these are receptors, and so they'll bind to molecules, or they are markings that tell other cells, you know, what type of cell they are. Because our body does a lot of destruction in the immune system based on markers. We know if it's a foreign cell or not. So a lot of times they communicate with the rest of the body. Now let's look at the transport mechanisms of the membrane. Now we're not going to see all of them right here, but we'll show a few of them. First we'll talk about active and passive. Remember, passive is no ATP. It doesn't require energy. And it's down a concentration gradient, okay? Down a concentration gradient. So no energy and it's down a concentration gradient. That's a passive transport. Okay? No energy, down a concentration gradient. It's going to go from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. Okay? There's a few different types. There's osmosis, which we talked about before. There's diffusion, and then there's facilitated diffusion. Now if we're looking at osmosis, let's say this is water up here, and we have some solutes up there, but then we have a ton of solutes down here. Which way is the water going to move? Well, the water is going to move from an area of low concentration, from a hypotonic area, lower concentration, to an area of higher concentration, a hypertonic. So this water is actually going to move in this direction. The net flow is going to be in that direction. The net movement is going to be in that direction to even out the solute concentration. So that would be osmosis right there. That's a type of passive transport. We also have simple diffusion, which is just going across the membrane. So if, for example, if these hydrogens could just go straight across here, that's simple diffusion. If they also move through this channel, if it's just an open channel and they move through, that's simple diffusion, as long as they're going down the concentration gradient. Now if they had to bind to this protein and then the protein pushed them through, that would be facilitated diffusion. They needed the aid of the protein to get through. Okay? If it just goes through a channel, it's just still simple diffusion. But if it has to bind to the protein and the protein has to move it through, that's facilitated diffusion. Now active transport, we have over here, it requires ATP. It needs ATP. And the reason we need ATP is we're usually going against a concentration gradient. So see how we have 4 here and 1 there. And we want more out. Or I mean more in, sorry. Put my arrow the wrong way. So we have 4 here and 1 here, and we need to go against the concentration gradient. So we're bringing this one in against that normal flow of wanting to even everything out. So we need ATP. Think of it like pushing a truck up a hill. So active transport's like pushing a little truck up a hill. And then passive transport's like letting that truck just fly down the hill. When you're going up the hill, it's a lot harder. You need energy. When you're going down the hill, it's a lot easier. You don't have to do much. You just let it fly. That's active transport. A type of active transport is an ion pump, sodium potassium pump. You can see that in your book if you'd like, but that's a type of active transport. Down here I've actually shown you ATP as well. So if I clear this off, This is an ATP molecule, and in order to use the energy, we actually split the phosphate off of it. So you put the phosphate on there, and that's what actually gives us energy to move that there, which we'll get into more in Chapter 6. Alright, next we're going to look at two types of transport that deal specifically with the membrane itself. And what they are is endocytosis, sorry, can't spell there, and exocytosis. Let me rewrite that. Endocytosis and exocytosis. Exo means exit, endo means to bring in or within. Alright, so endocytosis, let's say this is our cell here, and there's going to be two types. First one being pinocytosis. Pinocytosis, so pino. Okay, think of pino like drinking small molecules, bringing in things that are small. So you're going to have all these little small molecules come in, and the membrane is actually going to form around it, and it'll squeeze it in, and then you'll have all these molecules in there, and they'll bring it in to the cell. So it actually makes the membrane actually just kind of buds around it, squeezes in, pinches off a vesicle, and brings it into the cell. Next one we're going to look at is phagocytosis. So phagocytosis. Alright, and what happens in phagocytosis is you have this large molecule out here, and actually let's use a different color. So you have a large molecule out here, and the cell will actually create a little what we call pseudopodia, and it's like a false foot. And what it does is it comes out here and wraps around the molecule and then brings it in, and you have this vesicle with the molecule in it, and it's called phagocytosis. It's a type of endocytosis. Think of it like eating. It's larger molecules, and it creates the pseudopodia right here, which is the false foot that comes out and grabs it and pulls it in. Okay. Now exocytosis isn't as complicated. Basically what happens is you have a molecule in here inside of a vesicle. Okay, there's our molecule. Say it's a protein. We need to get it outside of the cell. Well, the vesicle moves towards the membrane. It will fuse with the membrane and spit the molecule out. So it fuses with the membrane, becomes part of the membrane, and spits the molecule out. And that's exocytosis. Okay, so those are your main topics. Make sure you can look at the other lecture as well. But make sure you know the parts of the cell, the organelles of the cell, the function and of each organelle, and then know the membrane, the components of the membrane, and the function, the membrane transport as well. There's one more thing I wanted to say about the membrane that I forgot to mention, and that was cholesterol. A lot of times you have cholesterol throughout your membrane, and that helps add to the fluidity and to the hydrophobic region of the membrane. So just make sure you know there's cholesterol in the middle of the membrane as well. And that's it for the Chapter 4 and 5 lectures. Make sure you watch Chapter 3, and I will see you on the discussion boards.